Well, thank you all. It's an honor and privilege to stand before you as our province's 14th Premier. To continue as Premier is to stand as a fighter in a proud legacy of fighters for Newfoundland and Labrador throughout our history and for the battles we are about to face together. Let me tell you wholeheartedly, I am ready to go. I'd like to, of course, first start with a special thank you to Allison for being my best campaign partner and, frankly, the best anyone can ask for. This election has been a long road, and you've been there every step of the way. I couldn't do this without your tireless energy and unwavering support. Thank you, Maggie, Rachel, and Mark. You guys, as always, are my heart. And I want to send a special thanks to my father for his guidance and counsel, and to all my family for being a part of this journey with me. Thank you to the good people of the District of Humber-Gross-Mourne for again putting their trust in me to represent them in our House of Assembly. I want to thank in particular my district campaign manager, Helen Reid, and her entire team in Humber-Gross-Mourne. And thank you to you, the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. Today you have challenged us to live up to an expectation no other government in this province has ever faced before. But take a look at the team you've elected. These are the right people to rise to that challenge and to move our province forward. I also want to thank our Liberal campaign co-chairs, Judy Moreau and John Sams, and our team, all of whom never once lost steam on this long and incredibly winding journey to the finish. I'm so proud of all our Liberal candidates and thank each and every one of you for your dedication and inspiring campaigns. And to all our volunteers, supporters, anyone who made a call, knocked on a door, put up a sign, or helped spread our message of hope. I wish you could all be on this stage with me today because you are all a part of this. To my opponents, Mr. Crosby and Ms. Coffin, and to everyone who took the bold step putting their name on a ballot as a candidate in this election, I commend your fighting spirit and the campaigns you all ran. Nothing speaks louder to the love of this province than the effort of those who step forward for public office. Throughout this campaign, I've consistently referred to the fight ahead of us. Everyone in our province knows too well the reality of the situation. And we've been told again and again that the odds are stacked against us. But that's also the very first thing you'll be told in any great comeback story. And it starts here. It starts today with the clear majority government mandate you have given us. Because for the government I will lead, this is no longer a crossroad. It is one road, forward. There is no precedent for what we've been through in this past year. Nothing to guide us. But that means now is the time for boldness. Our dire economic outlook was further burdened by the pandemic, and it took a massive toll. But it has also exposed an even bigger opportunity, a chance to make a tectonic shift in who we are and where we're going as a province. It can be a giant step forward. The question is, are we bold enough to take it? Yes, we are. My friends, we didn't get in this position overnight, and there are no overnight solutions. But we must always move forward. A bold new province will be a place that continually evolves, a place that embraces the fearlessness of reinvention, a place that runs on its large store of imagination. Of course, the driving force behind all of this is you, the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. And I know you're all anxious to see the end of the pandemic, and you worry about what's next for our province, what more we can handle. Hopefully, by the end of June, everyone in our province will have their first dose of the vaccine. And hopefully, we can start putting COVID-19 behind us. But there are still hard decisions in front of us. But together, we will decide the direction we take. Together, we will draw that map. That means we all must look 10 years down the road to see what we hope our province will be for ours and every generation that follows. We must boldly embrace that vision and step collectively towards it towards transitioning our economy to renewable energy, maximizing our oil and gas advantage today to build a future forward-based energy position for our province, towards fostering the climate to support new and growing technology companies in our province. They are doing such innovative work, and I'm truly excited to see what giant steps are next. Toward new approaches to ensure our traditional sectors stay strong and vibrant. One of our oldest industries, the fisheries, employing the newest thinking for sustainability and taking our top products to broader markets. And our mining industry is being reimagined and reinvigorated by a global demand for minerals and resources readily available right here at home. Toward drawing more tourists to our province. This place has long been a bucket destination, and for good reason. Our tourism product doesn't disappoint. There isn't a cove or a corner that isn't someone's memory in the making. And today we're happy the province has lifted the lockdowns and we have a true reason to be optimistic. To welcome more and more people from around the world to become Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. To move from population decline to population growth. Its economic benefits are only exceeded by the wealth it brings to an already diverse culture, building a strong and diverse workforce for the future. To continue to strengthen our bonds with Indigenous peoples by understanding that reconciliation is not just a word, it's a path forward. To help unburden our healthcare system by becoming a healthier people, focusing on building healthy communities and families that are able to fully partake in what our province has to offer. To relieve our province from what I can only describe as its long dependence on debt. The first step in realizing all of this may be the hardest for some. That step is to be part of a unified front. There is no divide that between us that we can't be bridged when we put the province first. We may differ politically. You may have issue with me, this party, or this government. But I'm not asking you to put that aside. I'm asking you to put the province first. Because the momentum we seek will come from many hands. To do this means boldness now. What we will accomplish together in the next 4 years can define our province for generations to come. What is next may be hard, but at the same time is brightly exciting. We have come to a point in our history where the road ahead is a little foggy, perilous, no doubt. But if we are bold now, we have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to change the trajectory of Newfoundland and Labrador. Today is a moment's pause, a pause in a journey that for me began a year ago, with a head full of ideas on the difference I wanted to make for the people of our province. How I refuse to be swayed by the many opinions of those who have written this place off. Yes, last March does feel like a lifetime ago. But I think back on how many miles I've traveled since then, the communities I've visited, the many faces, young and old, I've met with, listened to, and most importantly, learned from. It feels like every one of them is in this room today. And they're not here to celebrate. They're here to remind me, to hold me to the simple truth that when you ask people to push, you better push with them. That when you ask them to sacrifice, you have to give every single thing you have. When you ask them to believe, you carry their hopes. That when you say you will speak for them, you do so loudly, honestly, and only with the best intentions in mind. The time for boldness is now, Newfoundland and Labrador. From here, it is forward only, forward always. Thank you.
Have you spoken to the other two party leaders, Ms. Coffin and Mr. Crosby?
I have not yet. I look forward to chatting with them after this, but I haven't had a chance just yet.
Microphone here for questions. Premier, you barely got enough seats for majority, and voter turnout was only 48%. Did you only get a weak mandate to govern?
Not at all. This is a strong mandate. It's a different election in different times, but we think that this is the mandate we need to move forward and govern the province. The people needed a strong majority. We have a majority. The objective was a majority. I said from the beginning, I was very honored to have the nod from the Liberal Party. very humbled and privileged to have the support of people from Humber Gross Morin. But to tackle the issues, to emerge from this pandemic like we needed a mandate from the people, and we have a mandate from the people now, and so we'll govern for 4 years.
You went into this election, you called this election in mid-January, you were soaring in the polls, 60+%. Now you're calling this today a clear and decisive victory. But you only win 22 seats. Do you take any responsibility for how this all unfolded?
Do I take responsibility for COVID-19? No, I don't. I mean, I do. I never created COVID. The election didn't cause COVID-19. There was no way to predict this sudden spike of COVID-19 in our province. No one wanted to be in this situation. But one thing was certain: when I put my hand on the Bible in Government House in August, we needed to have a COVID-style election. So I made the best judgment with the information available to me at the time that was, and remember, we were at low case counts, almost none. We were the envy of the province, envy of the world, envy of the country, envy of the world. So that was the decision made at the time. We needed to have a mandate, as I said, a government, I was hoping it was going to be mine, needed a mandate to navigate the waters ahead as we emerge from this pandemic.
You keep using the word bold, and now you have your mandate. What do you mean by when you say we have to be bold here in this province?
Well, we have to relook at how and reimagine our industries and embrace technology so that we're creating employment and opportunity to fully grasp the value of them. I think we just scratched the surface of some of them, like technology being one, but technology is an investment in every other industry. So if we can fish smarter, if we can mine smarter using technology, then we can build a strong industries to create sustainable life for people here in the province. But I will say this, there's no solution without a strong demographic fix to the situation we're in. And I'm committed to, I've always spoken passionately about increasing our immigration targets so that we can create that, build on the diverse society that we have in Newfoundland and Labrador and create the workforce that we need driving into the future.
Premier, you've got your mandate for majority. So what's job one? What's the thing you're going to get at? I don't know, after Tuesday's official results.
I think we need to get a cabinet together fairly quickly. I mean, we had to put to bed the caretaker government and start governing. The people of this province need a government. They need people in there making decisions, actioning items, and resetting the agenda for the next 4 years. That's what this election is about, albeit it was a different election. But we need to capture that and start to get right to work right away. I said we need to move at breakneck speed now to make up for the lost time that occupied those 6 weeks because of the extended risk.
And will there be surprises in that cabinet?
Oh, I haven't had a full chance to digest the composition of cabinet just yet.
We're seeing low turnout, particularly in the Torngat Mountains. It's just over 20%. A lot of voters in that area expressed concerns that their votes didn't get there on time, that the election left them out. What do you say to voters in that area who wanted to vote and weren't able to because of this election?
Well, we're certainly going to review what happened in this election. We've said that. And we'll have a look at what was done well, what was done poorly, how we can improve for the future and modernize the Elections Act moving forward. I mean, some simple things that were pointed out, well, seemingly simple things that were pointed out that should be seemingly easy fixes. Like, regardless if there was a pandemic or not, these ballots should have been translated into Indigenous languages so people could vote in their mother tongue. So that seems like an easy fix. I can't figure out why it wasn't done before, but that's how you get better. You look at what was done right, what was done wrong, and then you improve on it for the future.
Thank you, Premier. So given all the issues, given some of the anecdotal stories we've heard about people having trouble to vote, less than 50% turnout, is there any doubt in your mind that the election is valid, given the amount of people who were just, we learn every day of new people who did not have a chance to vote, the basics of democracy. So you consider it a fair election and no question at all about the validity and the mandate that you have?
No.
Thank you.
You're the only leader that was re-elected today or elected. What do you think that shows?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I said from the outset that this was about leadership, so, you know, perhaps that speaks to that. I know it's a struggle for me, even running in your own district and trying to run around the whole province at the same time. But, look, we put together a hopeful, what I believe to be optimistic, high road agenda for the future of Newfoundland and Labrador. And I think that perhaps some of the results are reflective of the differences in our platforms.
Premier, tell us what your top priorities are now. We know that Muskrat Falls is a big
Sure.
big boondoggle hanging over our head. The economy, polls seem to suggest that's the #1 issue. What's your top priority now as you move forward?
So from a logistical point of view, we want to get into the House as fast as we can so we can democratically approve and move forward with a interim supply bill. So that teachers, doctors, lawyers, not lawyers, but teachers, doctors, some lawyers, I suppose, still get paid, but the civil service still gets paid. So that's logistically a top priority, but we need to really truly set the agenda for the next 4 years. So I think if there was any lesson I learned in the first 5-6 months of being Premier is that time evaporates fairly quickly. And so you need to grasp hold of the reins and make sure you're driving that vision further. So I think I've echoed here today some of my priorities like immigration, but to borrow your phrase, we can't do anything until we fix the boondoggle of Muskrat Falls. We launched, forget, it seems like a lifetime ago, but there was $840 million plus terms to negotiate in December. We need to follow those through now so that we have the fiscal capacity that we need to to look at the structural issues going forward. If we assume all that debt, we can't. It's not feasible for the province to assume all of it on the ratepayers. The elasticity of the electricity rates combined with the downward force on the economy, on local businesses, if the electricity rates are allowed to balloon. So that is a top priority, and that's coming to a reality fairly quickly. So I'm really anxious and excited to get back, roll up my sleeves, figure out where those negotiations are, and move them forward quickly. I'm also interested in looking at reimagining the healthcare in general. I stated the whole time, any savings we find in healthcare need to be reinvested in the social determinants of health so that we can create a healthier society. People have opportunity to go to the gym, to exercise, to live healthier, balanced lifestyles so that the burden of the disease is not born later on in life. So you need to plant that seed now to recognize the fruit later. So those would be just off the top of my head, Terry.
You may be anxious, but I'm sure a lot of lawyers and failed candidates are also very anxious to launch some legal challenges over the whole fiasco of an election and how mail-in balloting rolled out and didn't roll out and failed. So how much of a hamper do you think that's going to be on getting government going and continuing on with your mandate?
Like I said, I think this is a legitimate election. I think we're going to go ahead. Lawsuits will happen if they happen, but we're going to go ahead and govern.
Premier, I've noticed former Premier Clyde Wells, Chief Justice Wells, made some comments this week, I believe it was on CBC, about the tough time he was facing in the 90s when there was a full-scale purge of, but a large purge of the public service. And he has determined that this is now a more serious situation than that. So how do you move forward without downsizing the public service?
Well, I think we need to create the short, medium, and long-term strategies. But as I've said all the time, throughout the campaign, and you guys can go back and look at the old tapes, now is not the time to take jobs out of the economy. Now is the time to stimulate the economy. Now is the time to make sure that the economy has people in it that are working. You're seeing countries around the world borrowing trillions of dollars, our own country borrowing $330 billion. Now is not the time to take jobs out of the economy. So we need to develop short-term strategy, and in the short term it has to be Muskrat Falls. That is the hurdle we need to overcome in order to deal with some of the medium-term strategies and how we look at government, how government is operating, and try to find efficiencies within it there. So program reviews, not necessarily job loss, but are we delivering the services that we need to deliver, and are they getting the right value for the investment? That's the key question to this. We can't forget that when you look at the economy of Newfoundland and Labrador, you can't just compare it to the rest of the Atlantic provinces, which everyone wants to do because of the distribution of the population and the landmass.
When Brian Peckford left as Premier in 1989, he said he left because he didn't have the ruthlessness to do the job that had to be done. Do you, sir, have the ruthlessness needed to get the job done?
This is not about being ruthless. This is about working together with everybody to ensure that we recognize the full potential of the future of Newfoundland and Labrador. Sure, there's tough decisions, but tough decisions can be made collectively with the best interest of the province in mind for the long term.